Okay, that's it. It's official. Asuka is the most evil villain in anime. Why, you may ask? She hurt my girl. You don't hurt my girl and get away with it. You don't do anything to my girl and get away with it. You got that? My girl may not be real, but I'm a very lonely man. So I need my girl. You hear me? Hear me? So, anyways, on to the episode. So, this week, several big things happened, most of them Misaki-centric, which is very nice for me. But first up, let's talk about the non-Misaki stuff. First up, the Kai thing. I really liked the scene with Kai on his bed, just staring at Dragonic Overlord. It actually really says a lot about the character and where he's going, especially because so often than not, characters in Kai's role are not allowed to have moments of self-reflection. They're not allowed to have somewhat of a moment of self-loathing, of worriment of what they're becoming. So much is said in that scene just by him staring at the card. Kai is not a particularly deep character. He is very clearly not someone who thinks a lot about the world around him. He's just kind of does his own thing and plays Vanguard, and he never seems to not like who he is. He never seems to acknowledge he maybe has a problem with himself, but no, in this one moment we see that he does, because he's thinking about what he became during that fight against Dogboy. He's thinking about how far he pushed it, how much pain he inflicted both to the guy physically and psychologically, and we can infer a lot from there. We can infer that maybe he's scared of what he is on the inside, holding in anger from a dark past. We can infer that maybe he's worried he could become like Ren. Maybe he's scared of maybe Ren coming after him or what could happen there. Maybe he's worried about the status quo of his life changing. We actually see that a little bit with each character, that idea of there's a dark, bad thing going on right now and it's affecting everybody. So it'll be interesting to see how it affects him and how it goes further. After all, he now is with Tetsu. Tetsu showed up and Kai's just like, you're here. And Kai's not angry, he's not scared, he's not sad or whatever. He's just kind of, here we go. Here's what happens next. The inevitable showing up, because we're both highly marketable characters, so we must meet at some point and probably have fan fiction of us doing dirty stuff. Moving on, we have Aichi, Kyo, and Kamui. Is it weird I kind of like this trio? I don't know why. Something was fun about this. Kyo was definitely one of the more shafted characters throughout the franchise history. They very clearly didn't know what to do with him at any point, so seeing him actually have a major role in the story here is kind of fun, and I like the fact that they aren't dragging out that he's either got his own goal or that he's manipulating Aichi, which obviously we learned that he is, which is great because it's obvious. It's so obvious, and so many shows and movies would just drag out that twist, and you just sit there banging your head against the wall being like, I figured this out. I've watched television shows and movies before. So seeing them just be very upfront is very good. I like the fact that it's just sort of simple. Oh, he needs to fight to activate the Psyqualia. Let's just put him against more tough people. That's such an ingenious way to sort of bring Psyqualia down to a rational level. It's not just a mystical magical power. There are ways to manipulate it. There are ways to use it to your advantage. And Kyo is doing that. And again, it just sort of keeps everything at a more realistic level. I think at some point Kyo will have his moment of these are good people, I shouldn't do this, or he'll have his moment of redemption, maybe he screws everything up and then he's got to save everybody. I think that's where this is going, but it's still nice all the same, and it is a just fun scene, just him and Kamui, I quite like it. And then moving on to our main focus of the plot, we have Misaki versus Asuka. Very quickly, I do want to touch on the sort of scene at the beginning where Asuka is just like, oh, getting revenge for your boyfriend, and Miwa's like, no, Misaki is like, he ain't my boyfriend, never in a million years, that type of scene. And it's a little awkward because in the original series and in the manga, I know that they try and sort of insinuate there's a thing between Misaki and Miwa, and I didn't like it in the series, and I really hope they don't go down that route here. I just don't like it as a couple, honestly. I'm not much of a shipper fan, but this just feels random. When they started doing it in season 3, I'm just like, these two? They have like no scenes together until it's time to force scenes together because the writers decide, well, if a female character can't really exist unless she has a man. Who's available, who isn't either being gay shipped, a child, or has another role in the story. Okay, blonde pretty boy, she gets him. Especially because in this series, Miwa is less mature than he is in the original Cardfight Vanguard. Don't get me wrong, I love Miwa. I think he's a lot of fun in this, and I liked his drama last episode. But this is a Miwa who will not really take the higher ground. This is a Miwa who will be snarky. This is a Miwa who will whine if he's annoyed. And I just sort of feel like it's not really the type of person I imagine Misaki would go after. I actually like shipping her with Aichi this time around. In the original series, it didn't work a ton, but I feel like in this series, I think they're going that route. Because I've noticed Aichi seems more aware of Misaki, if that makes sense. Because remember, Aichi's the one who points out how strong she is. Aichi's the one who wants to card fight her originally. It just seems like they try to insinuate that, at the very least, Aichi seems interested in her. And you can make the argument we got a hint that she's a little interested in him this episode. Remember, there's that scene where Misaki's like, then he showed up, and my life got fucked because he brought so much craziness into it. Okay, obviously it's not that. She points it out in a positive way, but, she points it out in a positive way. She's a girl, he's a guy, I can't help it. I, like everyone else, kind of have this natural desire to wonder, well, could they be with this person? So, that's it for that. Moving on to the card fight. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Protect and Excel are sort of an interesting matchup because obviously Excel gains extra attacks and also 10k boost to those attacks. So obviously they usually have a good matchup against Protect clans, or unless you're just Dragonic Waterfall and you just decide to curb stomp everybody. But it was neat the way Misaki won. I like that it wasn't sort of like the Aichi versus Kyo fight, where it's, here's a random new card that gets its own basic extra booster so we can break the logic of our clan release system. No, it was the very logical, I have a unit that gains 15k and a crit. I am going to make my deck work with this thing. And because you're playing an Excel clan, you're going to dump a lot of resources, so if I can make it through the attack, here I come for you next turn. At me, bitch! So that's essentially what happened. It is a little awkward watching Misaki get hurt, because this is a character who you kind of emotionally connect with, and I'd argue she's the one people want to end up the happiest at the end, if that makes sense. Like, like the old saying goes, protect that smile. So it is weird. It is a little awkward seeing her get hurt, and guess what? We get more of it next week. Is Shin the worst uncle ever? Why doesn't he just call the police on all this electrocuting? Why has no one called the cops? Like, this just seems very extreme, unless they're over-dramatizing how hurt they actually get. But Misaki almost passes out at the end. Call the cops, dude. That's your niece. The only person you have in your life. Jesus Christ. But yeah, no, it was cool. I liked it. I like it was Misaki-centric. I like that they brought it back to Misaki that the store is what she has to remember her parents. It's her connection to them. And protecting the store means protecting them and their legacy. So that's why she goes on the offensive when someone knocks the shop, or when Asaka wants to take it over and enforce her way. This is Misaki's last shred of her ideals and a representation of that. So losing that means something. And I like that they put that emphasis that that's why it's important, which is great. It's more than just some sort of abstract concept that a lot of these will use as their excuse for why they have to protect their game or their website. Oh god, I hate Gundam Build Divers. But anyways, I really like this. We'll talk more. I imagine we'll get more into the psychological aspects of things next week with the Ren versus Misaki fight. Tell me what you think about this below. We're getting a little long here. And let's start doing it. Vanguard question of the week. I'll come up with a better name. All of the clans got their confirmation of what sort of force gift they get today. Are you excited about that? Would you have liked to have waited for them to get their actual reveals to see how it all works? Are you pissed off that your clan didn't get the one you wanted? I find it a little weird Bermuda's didn't get Protect, or even Excel I thought would have made more sense for them considering they do a lot of calling. But as always, click to like, click to subscribe, tell me that below, and let's see what happens when Shadows try and prove they're not absolute garbage next week.